Everyone has bad dreams, whether they're about unconscious memories showing up to school in your underwear or a man in a stripy sweater with a spiky glove and a serious moisturizing problem. Nightmares are never far from us, a common occurrence as part of the human experience, and they can happen to anyone. Of course, working for the SCP Foundation means being faced with actual nightmares, not only in the middle of the night, but on a day-to-day basis. Giant unkillable lizards with pure hatred for humanity, ancient eldritch beings with enough cosmic power to wipe out entire dimensions, and a species of buses with gigantic insect legs that feed on human beings. Needless to say, the researchers and operatives that find themselves employed by the SCP Foundation come face to face with some pretty horrific creatures, enough to give anyone sleepless nights. This naturally begs the question, what could possibly scare the workers of the SCP Foundation? What could the Foundation possibly have nightmares about? Well, they don't really have a name for him, just a designation, SCP-990. Multiple members of Foundation staff have all made reports of witnessing the same entity. After all, when you deal with dangerous cognito hazards for a living, it's worth taking every unusual occurrence seriously, instead of just relying on the old "it's just a dream" excuse. Anyone from doctors and research personnel to mobile task force operatives and those working as anomaly guarding security, every person working for the Foundation is at risk of an unwanted encounter with SCP-990. The reports are all consistent. They all describe a man, seemingly a human being. This figure always seems to appear dressed in a business suit, but not like you might see a modern CEO or a Wall Street stockbroker wearing. Instead, SCP-990's sense of fashion seems to be at least a few decades out, and he seems to favor wearing clothing more in line with the style of the Cold War era. Wait, that can't be it, right? The big bad boogeyman that terrorizes the dreams of the SCP Foundation staff is just a man in a suit? What is he, an IRS agent? Well, while SCP-990 might not be all that scary to look at when compared to other frightening anomalies like the haunting beaked visage of the Plague Doctor, or the unknowable horror that is SCP-096, it's not the way he looks that's terrifying. It is the ominous warnings that he carries with him. What is interesting is that while most dreams are usually our brain's way of processing our memories or real-world experiences and anxieties, SCP-990 seems to have no recorded existence beyond what has been reported by staff. He seems to exclusively exist within the dreams of Foundation personnel, with absolutely none of these people having witnessed or encountered the suit-wearing man in the real world. If there is somewhere out there among the 7 billion people on planet Earth a man who resembles SCP-990, then the Foundation has been unsuccessful in tracking him down. What's more is that there has never been a single report from outside of the Foundation, not one civilian or even any member of another group of interest, that anyone else has ever had a dream involving SCP-990. For years now, he's been cropping up exclusively in the nightmares of Foundation personnel, but was first discovered a number of years ago after several agents began to discuss the fact that they all had experienced similar dreams, all revolving around a mysterious man in a Cold War-era business suit. But then, he finally became known to the higher-ups at the Foundation after one peculiar incident. An agent had failed to report to his assigned post at the right time, and from that moment on, things would never be the same again. After scouring the Foundation facility for this missing agent, when fellow members of personnel found him, he was fast asleep in his quarters. Doesn't seem too unusual, right? After all, working at the SCP Foundation has got to be pretty hard going, with some horrendous overtime hours, so maybe the agent just needed to catch up on some sleep by taking a quick nap before the start of his shift. Then again, 18 whole hours is one hell of a long nap. That's right, the man had been unconscious for 18 hours. When they found him, fellow Foundation staff were unable to awaken the sleeping agent, his body having entered some form of short-term coma. Unsure if he would ever wake again, medical personnel had the agent moved to the sickbay on site, where he was placed under surveillance and continued his long sleep. After almost 2 whole days and an uninterrupted 40-hour period of sustained sleep, the agent finally awoke. He was agitated, erratic. Clearly something had rattled him pretty severely. The agent dashed out of his bed in the medical bay and began frantically running through the corridors of the Foundation facility, screaming and babbling about the impending end of the entire world. Eventually, medics were able to restrain the man, injecting him with powerful sedatives to relax him long enough for them to secure him. Yet somehow the agent's bodily functions remained in a heightened state even after he was sedated. His heart was beating at a dangerously accelerated rate, and his blood pressure was spiking to quite an alarming degree. Now, we may not be medical experts, but we can guarantee that high blood pressure and an elevated heart rate are rarely ever good signs. Then again, neither is being asleep and unable to wake for 40 solid hours. As you may have already guessed, when he finally calmed down, the agent described a dream that revolved around a man dressed in a business suit that seemed to match the styles of the Cold War era. In other words, SCP-990. But you see, it's not like the mysterious man trapped the agent in this 40-hour dream just to torture him. There was no pulling the agent through the center of his mattress, causing a volcanic eruption of blood to splatter up to the ceiling. SCP-990 didn't wrap any bed sheets around the agent's neck, or slash at him using a glove with a blade at the end of each finger. Instead, all SCP-990 did during the course of the agent's dream was deliver a message. Well, actually, it was more of a warning than anything else. After he had awoken and calmed down from his prior outburst, the agent was being evaluated by a Foundation doctor. During this evaluation, the agent was able to describe, in the most acute, precise detail imaginable, a chilling sequence of events. Something that was so accurate that it could only have been true, instead of just an inconsequential dream or a fabricated made-up story. The agent was describing exactly how the world was going to end. Not a single detail was omitted. The exact times and dates, the tipping of every domino on the geopolitical landscape that would ultimately lead to annihilation. SCP-990 had appeared in the agent's dream to describe exactly how, at some point in time, a series of events would culminate in multiple tactical nuclear warheads being launched. These deadly weapons of mass destruction would head straight for targets in Central Europe and Eastern Asia, seeming to imply that the missiles were being launched by the United States of America. The resulting devastation of the nuclear payload would wipe out almost the entirety of the human race, exterminating around 98% of the planet's population. Society would collapse on a global scale, and the world would be rendered a barren, inhospitable wasteland, ravaged by radioactive fallout. Every detail of this impending apocalypse was relayed to the agent by SCP-990, including exactly who and what would trigger the initial chain of events destined to end in total destruction of Earth. Deciding to take the mysterious suited man's message seriously, the SCP Foundation dispatched one of its elite mobile task forces to eliminate that initial threat, removing the thing that would topple the first domino. While the crisis was averted and the world saved, the agent who first reported his encounter with SCP-990 died, suffering symptoms resembling severe shock. Of course, just because you managed to stop one approaching apocalypse doesn't mean that there won't be others. In fact, when you think about it, that's the scariest thing about SCP-990. It's not that he appears in Foundation personnel's dreams, it's that his work is never done. He always brings with him a new warning of a new disaster on the horizon. If anything, the ripples caused by preventing one of these crises only create another to deal with. Since this initial incident, now designated as Event 990-07, SCP-990 has made a number of similarly ominous warnings through the nightmares of other members of the SCP Foundation. Any one of this business suit-wearing omen's warnings come with almost 100% certainty rate. He can foresee the future without any margin of error, successfully predicting the exact dates, times, and causes of the deaths of multiple doctors working for the Foundation. Even the destruction of a noted facility, known as Watch Station Epsilon 38, was foretold by an appearance of SCP-990. Of course, theories about who or what exactly this man is are common, but with no clear, definite answer to speak of. It is currently up in the air if this entity is some sort of guardian angel, helping the SCP Foundation protect humanity from their own downfall and guiding us all to safety. Or he could be a visitor from an infinite number of potential futures, projecting himself back in time to avert whatever course of action led to the end of the world. The staff at the SCP Foundation are encouraged to come forward if they ever have a nocturnal encounter with SCP-990, with one doctor even believing that the man has a physical body somewhere out there in the real world. During one dream with SCP-990 in it, a Foundation doctor was able to conduct a complete interview with the man. Now, we all know that it can be pretty tricky to recall the details of a dream after waking up, but this particular doctor claimed to have an almost impeccable memory. It is unclear how exactly this doctor was able to converse so clearly with SCP-990, but with so many people working for the Foundation, perhaps it was only a matter of time before the man in the suit found one capable of lucid dreaming. After commencement of this dream interview, when asked for his name, SCP-990 responded with Tony, as if he pulled the name from thin air. When the doctor asked if this was his real name, SCP-990 claimed that a person should have the right to be called whatever they wish to be called, before changing his mind and asking to be called Richard instead. The doctor pressed on, asking the man why he had been delivering threats to Foundation personnel through their dreams. SCP-990 seemed confused by this. Then the doctor rebutted by accusing the Dreamwalker of murdering the agent, the one who had first reported his encounter with SCP-990. Hearing this, the entity explained that the Foundation had the wrong impression of him, claiming that he wasn't the bad guy. Upon mention of a bad guy being involved, the doctor's next course of action was naturally to ask who this might be. And then SCP-990 said something even stranger. It was the designation of another SCP, but not one that the Foundation had ever encountered before. There didn't even exist any anomaly under the number that the mysterious Dream Man had given. There is no SCP with that designation, and there won't be for some time, the doctor argued, growing ever more confused and agitated. Well, of course not, SCP-990 replied. She hasn't even been born yet, much less classified by your Foundation. When asked if this was another prediction of an impending disaster, yet another threat that could end the entire world, SCP-990 simply told the doctor, "This is your wake-up call." Since then, no one is certain who or what this future anomaly could be, whether she has since been contained by the Foundation or if that is still yet to come. The sad part about our dreams is that they only ever really offer us a look backwards, memories and experiences all warped in our sleeping brains. None of us can look forward. Nobody knows exactly what the future holds. Well, none of us except SCP-990, that is. It has been a long time since the Foundation designated SCP-990. If that prophesized nightmare of an SCP has been born and designated since then, what do you think she is? Let us know down in the comments. Now go check out SCP-3017, the most dangerous person alive, and SCP-1440, the old man that kills all living things he touches, for more eerie humanoid SCPs.